Rumor has it that the crown prince always wears a string of Buddhist prayer beads that he never takes off. However, at the banquet, his hands were empty. Just as everyone was wondering where the prince's beads were, the girl standing behind him suddenly flushed. Immediately after, one by one, the beads fell from beneath her skirt. Everyone at the banquet was stunned. They never expected that a woman was the one who broke the prince's vows. The prince, who had always been devoted to Buddhism, was willing to break his vows for a woman, and in such a cunning way. Chi Yanran was raised to be delicate and fair, with a slender waist and long legs. Any man who looked at her couldn't help but get a nosebleed. So her mother sent her into the palace to seduce the prince. It was said that the current crown prince had an indifferent nature and was determined to become a monk. However, the current emperor had a dwindling line of descendants, with only the prince as his male heir. The emperor was so anxious that he immediately issued a decree. Whoever could make the prince break his vows would be rewarded with a lifetime of wealth and glory. But her mother didn't tell her before she entered the palace that the prince was hostile toward women. The beautiful women who had entered the palace before her, who had merely spoken a few extra words in front of the prince, had their feet chopped off and were fed to the dogs. But she had already entered the palace, and there was no turning back. Granny Yang handed the food box to Chi Yanran with an expression of great difficulty. "Please, miss, persuade His Highness the Crown Prince to eat." Chi Yanran took the food box, feeling as if she were walking to her own grave. She gently pushed open the door to the hall. Inside the Xian hall, Rongfu was focused on his prayer beads and tapping a wooden fish. When the hall door behind him was pushed open, his thin lips moved, and he coldly said, "Get out." Chi Yanran, holding the food box, froze. Should she go in or not? While she hesitated, she sized up Rongfu. The man indeed had a handsome face, but his entire being exuded a coldness that kept strangers away. Gathering her courage, Chi Yanran took another step. Rongfu suddenly opened his eyes and looked over. Those deep, cold eyes seemed to stare directly into a person's soul. Chi Yanran's heart clenched, and she stopped. Such cold, deep eyes. He doesn't look like a Buddhist practitioner at all, she thought. Rongfu was also looking at her. Another woman, and she's even prettier than the last one. He looked at the woman's slender waist, and a strange sense of violence welled up inside him. He felt a strong urge to reach out and snap it. Rongfu immediately closed his eyes, exhaled a long, deep breath, and coldly said, "If you don't want to die, get out." Chi Yanran stated her purpose. "As long as His Highness eats, I'll get out." Thinking that he wouldn't cooperate easily, she quickly added, "I've heard that monks are always compassionate. I hope Your Highness won't make things difficult for me." This was a form of moral blackmail, but since Rongfu hadn't become a monk yet, it was useless. "Since you know I'm going to become a monk, then you should know why I don't eat. Get out." I won't say it a second time. Chi Yanran opened the food box, and the aroma of food immediately filled the hall. "Your Highness, if you don't eat, I won't be able to obey the order." Rongfu hadn't eaten all day, and his stomach immediately began to rumble. The sound was particularly loud in the quiet hall. Chi Yanran looked at the embarrassed man and felt a bit panicked. Will he kill me to keep me quiet? She wondered. In fact, Rongfu wasn't embarrassed by his grumbling stomach. His expression was agitated, and he quickly fiddled with his prayer beads, mumbling scriptures under his breath. Seeing his demeanor, Chi Yanran stopped trying to persuade him. "Since Your Highness doesn't want to eat, then I won't be polite." Rongfu wondered what she meant by not being polite. Was she going to force feed him? He opened his eyes, wanting to see what she would do, only to see her pick up her chopsticks and start eating with gusto herself. She even spoke as she ate. "I'm helping Your Highness with your worries. Don't worry, I won't let anyone find out." Rongfu's stomach rumbled even louder. So hungry. I've never been this hungry. He watched as the food on the plates quickly disappeared, and he couldn't help but swallow. Chi Yanran saw him swallow and, as if she was afraid he would try to grab the food, quickly picked up the last plate of vegetables and moved away from him. This infuriated Rongfu. With his hand still on the prayer beads, he pointed at her. "You are presumptuous! You have no manners!" "No manners?" Chi Yanran, who was finally full, said with a smile, "I'm sorry, Your Highness, I lost my composure." Just as her words fell, something even more disgraceful happened. As she bent over to clean up the messy dishes, her shoulder strap slipped, and half of her chest was exposed. Unfortunately, she was facing Rongfu. Rongfu was seduced by her. He had thought she was truly here to persuade him to eat, but it seemed she was just like all the others. Chi Yanran with a shocked cry, covered her chest with both hands. Remembering what had happened to the women who had failed to seduce him outside, she quickly explained, "It was an accident. An accident! Your Highness, believe me, I have no intention of seducing you." Rongfu didn't believe her. He scoffed. "If you have no intention of seducing me, then get out." Chi Yanran quickly tidied her clothes, grabbed the food box, and rushed out without even saying her farewells. Rongfu was inexplicably angry and almost crushed his prayer beads. Outside the Zine Hall, Granny Yang was still waiting. The execution of the previous palace maids had just finished, and the smell of blood was pungent. Granny Yang looked on with disgust and said, "Drag them out quickly, useless waste." Just then, the hall doors opened. Hearing her words, Chi Yanran couldn't help but feel a chill. If I didn't complete the task, Granny Yang would probably have called me a waste too, she thought. Just as she was thinking this, Granny Yang stepped forward and asked, "Miss, did His Highness eat?" When Chi Yanran heard this, she immediately replied, "He did," in order to avoid being called a, quote, waste. She opened the food box to show Granny Yang the empty plates. Granny Yang's face immediately lit up with joy. She praised her. "Miss, you truly are capable." Then she ordered, "Someone quickly take this young lady to the side room to rest." As for herself, she waddled away, wiggling her backside, to report the good news to the Empress. The Empress was surprised when she heard that the prince had eaten, and that it was the new palace maid's doing. Quote, "The capable are always busy," she thought. The Empress gave her a new task, to persuade the prince to go to the Imperial Academy to study the ways of a ruler. Chi Yanran felt like crying but couldn't resist. She could only obey. That afternoon, Granny Yang handed Chi Yanran the food box again. Chi Yanran took it, sighing inwardly. How am I going to persuade him to eat this time? She agonized over it all the way to the Eastern Palace and finally came up with an idea. She handed the food box back to Granny Yang and said, "Granny, wait a moment. I'm going to put on some makeup." She was talking about a bruised makeup that was popular in the modern world, with the goal of looking pitiful and miserable. When Granny Yang saw her with a black eye and a face full of cuts, she was startled. "Miss, what is this?" Chi Yanran explained, "It's a bitter flesh scheme. I have no other choice, so I can only try this. To make it look real, she used real blood." She poked the inside of her thigh with scissors, smeared the blood on her mouth and face. Of course, she also deliberately tore her clothes and rolled on the ground a few times until she was sufficiently disheveled. Then, she carried the food box and stumbled to the main hall. Granny Yang, who had watched the whole process, was stunned. This is too much." Chi Yanran, looking pathetic, pushed open the door to the main hall. Inside the Zine Hall, Rongfu was meditating. The door opened, and he felt a familiar fragrance, but it was accompanied by the smell of blood. "What's wrong? Is she hurt?" he wondered. Just as he was thinking, a force rushed toward him. He opened his eyes and saw her stumble and fall toward him. Chi Yanran pretended to be weak and powerless, crying out as she fell, "Your Highness, be careful!" Rongfu didn't catch her. He quickly put his hands on the ground and dodged. Chi Yanran fell directly between his legs, in a very awkward position. She was embarrassed and said with a shocked expression, "Your Highness knows martial arts." Rongfu's gaze was cold. "So pathetic. It looks like she was found out for tricking them and was punished. And now she's discovered my secret. Damn it!" A murderous intent slowly rose in his eyes. Chi Yanran, sensing his killing intent, quickly tried to save herself. "I heard that your Highness has been sickly since childhood. Perhaps there are some physical strengthening exercises in Buddhism." Rongfu listened to her words and realized he had been too tense. Chi Yanran saw that he had reined in his murderous intent and quickly changed the subject. "Does your Highness still not want to eat?" Rongfu didn't answer, but asked in return, "Were you punished?" Chi Yanran immediately played the victim. This maid deceived Granny by saying, "Your Highness ate. I deserve to be punished for my deceit." As she spoke, she brewed up some emotion and blinked her wet, tear-filled eyes at him. Rongfu saw her tearful eyes and felt a little moved, but his expression was one of schadenfreude. "If I don't eat, are you going to die?" Chi Yanran knelt in front of him and said in a soft voice, "I hope your Highness can have mercy." As her voice fell, a crystal-clear tear rolled down. Rongfu was a grown man, and even though he had been a Buddhist practitioner for many years, he was a little stirred. "What's your name?" Chi Yanran replied. This maid's name is Chi Yanran. He said meaningfully, if I take pity on you, can you handle it? Chi Yanran was dumbfounded. What does he mean? Is he making a move? She quickly lowered her head and said weakly, this maid has a lowly life. A lowly life is the most fated. Rongfu didn't speak, but he looked at her submissive posture. His gaze slowly fell on her slender waist. That waist still made his hands itch to grab it. Remember your words. He gave her a deep look, then waved his hand. Get out. Leave the things here. Chi Yanran was happy inside. Thank you, Your Highness. She left the food box and quickly ran out. Granny Yang saw her come out and rushed forward to ask, did His Highness eat? When Chi Yanran left the hall, she had seen Rongfu open the food box, so she knew he would eat it. So she said, Granny, you should go see for yourself. Granny Yang peeked through the window. This time, she saw with her own eyes that the prince had eaten. She immediately gave Chi Yanran a thumbs up. Miss, you are truly brilliant beyond compare. Before going to sleep, Chi Yanran thought about the Empress's new task, persuading the prince to study at the Imperial Academy, and she got a terrible headache. The next morning, she was woken up by a palace maid to deliver food to the prince. Still having a headache, she heard a haughty female voice call out, Stop! Give me the food! A tall figure in black and red came riding on a horse, with a silver whip in her hand, cracking in the air. Chi Yanran was shocked. Who is this person? How dare she ride a horse in the Eastern Palace? In an instant, the high-raised horse hooves were in front of her. Before she could react, a long whip was swung at her. Chi Yanran dodged nimbly, but her action clearly enraged the other person. How dare you dodge? Stop! The girl jumped off her horse and swung the whip again, shouting, You stand still! If I, the young lady, want to hit you, you must obediently stand there and take it. Chi Yanran quickly hid behind Granny Yang, pitifully calling out, Granny, help! Granny Yang spread her arms and stood in front of Chi Yanran. At the same time, she looked at the bright and arrogant girl and said with a smile, Miss He, please calm down. Don't let a lowly palace maid make you so angry. As she said this, she pulled Chi Yanran out from behind her and reminded her, This is the daughter of the great general and the fiancée of the crown prince. Hurry and greet her! Chi Yanran immediately lowered her head and obediently bowed. Greetings, Miss He. Daoyan didn't say anything, but her gaze was contemptuous as she stared at Chi Yanran's face. Even with a few bruises, she was still beautiful. Zhaoyan frowned, and without a word, she swung her whip. He whip cracked in the air, but Chi Yanran dodged it again. She was so angry she could have spit fire. In broad daylight, she's just whipping people without a word? Does she have no respect for the law? You still dare to dodge? Zhaoyan saw Chi Yanran hide behind Granny Yang and angrily shouted, Granny Yang, get out of the way! I am the future mistress of the Eastern Palace. Don't force me to show you no respect. Suddenly, the door to the hall opened, and a cold male voice was heard. Have you had enough? Zhaoyan heard his voice and wanted to run over and complain first, but before turning around, she saw her own disheveled and pathetic appearance. She covered her face, afraid to see him. Crown Prince brother, I just remembered I have something to do. I'll come back to see you another day. Then Zhaoyan ran off, covering her face. Seeing that she was gone, Chi Yanran bowed to Rongfu. This maid greets your highness. Before she could finish speaking, she saw him return to the hall without even looking at her. Granny Yang handed her the food box and came over, breaking the awkward silence. Miss, go in quickly! Chi Yanran quickly took the food box from her and hurried into the Zine Hall. Inside the Zine Hall, Rongfu was sitting cross-legged on a futon with his eyes closed, one hand on his prayer beads and the other tapping a wooden fish. Greetings, your highness. Chi Yanran quickly bowed, then squatted down and opened the food box. Rongfu smelled the food and slowly opened his eyes. His gaze was so deep, it was almost fiery. I underestimated you. You weren't beaten to death. He had heard the commotion outside and thought that, with her frail appearance, she would be whipped to death by Zhaoyan. He never expected her to be completely unharmed. What else is hidden behind this beautiful and delicate face? Chi Yanran didn't know what Rongfu was thinking. She just felt that his words had a hint of schadenfreude. She couldn't help but wonder, is this what a Buddhist practitioner is like? So indifferent. She thought this in her mind, but on her face she said in a feigned, fragile voice, Your Highness has such a cruel heart. You were just going to watch this maid get beaten? Your Highness is half a monk. Aren't you afraid of Buddha's wrath for not helping someone in need? She liked to use his path to Buddhism as a form of moral blackmail. Every time Rongfu heard her say this, he would falter. After a moment of hesitation, he finally managed to say, "You truly have a sharp tongue." Hearing this, Qianran immediately blinked her beautiful, flirtatious eyes at him and said in a sweet tone, "This maid's mouth isn't just sharp, it's also very sweet. Does your highness want to have a taste?" Rongfu was stunned. This was touching on his Buddhist vows. Buddhism has 5 precepts: no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, and no drinking. She had just broken 2 of them. He immediately shouted, "Get out!" Qianran didn't take it to heart. If she actually listened to him and left, her seduction attempt would have failed. The deadline was the day after tomorrow, and the Empress would surely have her head. With that in mind, she brazenly flirted with him. "How do I get out? This maid is foolish. Your Highness, can you teach me?" As she spoke, she pretended to touch the ground. The ground was paved with white marble, which was very hard. "Your Highness, the ground is too hard. How about you teach me how to get out on your bed instead? Your Highness's bed is so big we can get out however we want." The words were full of innuendo. As she said them, her eyes were innocent and naive, perfectly blending purity and seductiveness. This was a great temptation for a man. Rongfu was still a young man in his prime, and in the face of such charm, his self-control was not strong enough. He could only let out a low growl of "shameless," and then closed his eyes tightly, muttering the scriptures he revered. Qianran saw his flustered look and couldn't help but smile. "Your Highness, your Buddhist practice talks about the 4 great voids. Since everything is void, why do you need to keep your eyes tightly shut? Or do you know that as soon as you open your eyes and look at me, you won't be able to achieve the 4 great voids anymore?" He reached out and touched the black prayer beads on his hand. Rongfu was just counting the beads, and it was a coincidence that as his hand touched, Rongfu's hand landed on the same bead he touched. Their fingertips met, and that soft, smooth touch startled him. The prayer beads fell to the ground. "How dare you!" Rongfu opened his eyes, his face full of fury, looking toward the hall door, about to call for someone to take her away. Thinking of how he was a beast man, the beautiful woman immediately reached out and covered his mouth. "Your Highness, please spare me this one time." While she pleaded for mercy, her body, like a beautiful snake, coiled around and entangled him. Rongfu felt as if his soul was under attack. His body felt like it had collided with a soft cloud, and the intoxicating scent of her filled his nostrils. His head spun, and the blood in his body rushed wildly, making him lose control and want to be reckless. "Shameless," he grunted coarsely. He desperately wanted to push her away, but with his eyes closed, he couldn't see clearly and was afraid of touching the wrong places. He could only let her do as she pleased. Qianran saw that he dared not look at her or touch her. She was fearless and hugged him even tighter. Kissing his Adam's apple, Rongfu's body instantly froze, and his mind went blank. Gradually, his consciousness returned, and he felt a strong, tingling sensation on his Adam's apple, as if it would tingle all the way to his soul. "Qianran, I'll spare you! Get away from me!" His breathing became even more rapid, and sweat beaded on his forehead and face from the effort of his self-control. Just as Qianran got the answer she wanted and was about to let go, she heard a knock on the door. Thump, thump. They were still holding each other and looked at the hall door nervously and instinctively. Then they heard Granny Yang's voice. "Crown Prince, the Empress has summoned Qianran to speak with her." Rongfu ignored it and pulled Qianran away. "I'll spare you, but you're still going to die." He had already guessed the reason the Empress had summoned Qianran. It must have been He Zhaoyan who went to complain. Qianran also realized this and was panicked. "Is your Highness not going to save me? I'm already your Highness's person." The two of them were just so intimate. They had already had skin-to-skin contact. Unfortunately, Rongfu, thinking of his recent state of embarrassment, became furious. He gave her a sharp, clean command. "Get out!" Seeing him like this, Qianran said pitifully, "Your Highness, you're so heartless. I will pray for you." Rongfu closed his eyes and put his palms together. "Amitabha, benevolence." Qianran looked at him with tearful eyes. "Your Highness is a dragon among men. It's a blessing for this maid to have gotten close to you. Even if I die, I'll have no regrets." "Shut up and get out." Qianran was a little hurt by his words. She picked up the food box and said sadly, "Your Highness, eat. This maid is really leaving." With that, Qianran walked out. After she left, the cold expression on Rongfu's face shattered. He quickly stood up, poured a cup of cold tea, and gulped it down. but he still couldn't quell the demonic fire within him. Qi Yanran followed Granny Yang to the Kunming Palace. Both of them knew what was about to happen, and their expressions were grave all the way there. Outside the palace, Zhaoyan had been waiting for a long time. When she saw Qi Yanran arrive, she immediately raised her chin. The Empress has decreed. The palace maid Qi Yanran disrespected a noble lady and committed a grave offense. She is to kneel for 10 hours. Qi Yanran hadn't even seen the Empress. She didn't even have a chance to cry and beg for forgiveness. Zhaoyan kicked her, forcing her to kneel on the ground. Qi Yanran was unprepared, and her knees hit the ground hard. She cried out in pain, and tears welled up in her eyes. Kneel properly. 10 hours! Zhaoyan looked at Qi Yanran with a mischievous smile, gloating. Qi Yanran, you were so arrogant. If you're so capable, then don't kneel. In the face of absolute power, how could Qi Yanran dare not kneel? She knelt obediently. It wasn't long before her knees began to ache unbearably. In addition to the pain in her knees, the late spring sun was also scorching. Soon, she was sweating profusely and swaying, unable to hold on. She closed her eyes and pretended to faint. Qi Yanran, don't pretend to be dead. Zhaoyan saw her fall and kicked her leg. If you won't get up, then I won't be polite. She took out her whip and lashed her. Pa! Pa! 2 whips in a row tore Qi Yanran's clothes and left 2 bloody gashes on her body. Qi Yanran was in so much pain she wanted to kill someone. But she had been kneeling for too long. She felt dizzy and faint, as if she had heat stroke, and had no strength at all. She could only curl up on the ground and try her best to protect her face. It hurts so much. I'm going to die from the pain. Just as Qi Yanran was about to be whipped into a bloody pulp, a gentle and pleasant male voice came over. The whipping stopped. Qi Yanran was on the verge of fainting. In her last glimpse of consciousness, she vaguely saw a tall figure walking over. Granny Yang, quickly take the person back. Take good care of her wounds. Rongcheng seemed to not have seen Zhaoyan. He gave a displeased look to the attendant beside him and ordered him to save the person. Zhaoyan stomped her foot in anger. Uncle Wang! She's a brazen hussy who seduced my Wuji Gaig. Does Uncle Wang also fancy her? She said this for a reason. King Jing Rongcheng was nearly 30 and still unmarried. It was rumored that he had someone in his heart and had always been clean, never getting close to women. Rongcheng didn't know what Zhaoyan was thinking. He smiled gently. Zhaoyan, I'm doing this for your own good. Rongcheng said this, then glanced at the blood-stained whip in her hand. Making such a fuss is truly unseemly. You must know your place and go home now. Zhaoyan felt a bit guilty, so she agreed and went home. Rongcheng watched her leave, then glanced in the direction of the Kunming Palace before leaving himself. Qi Yanran woke up when she was placed on the bed. She opened her eyes, saw an unfamiliar man, and looked him up and down before asking, Who are you? The man saw that she was awake and immediately introduced himself. My name is Xiaoling. I am King Jing's attendant. King Jing? Qi Yanran knew very little about King Jing. She only knew he was the emperor's youngest brother. She never expected him to be her savior now. Thinking this, she thanked him. Thank you, King Jing, for saving my life. I am of lowly status and have nothing to repay you with. All I can do is pray for you every night and wish you a successful and prosperous life. You're too kind, miss. Xiaoling glanced at her injuries and then at Granny Yang standing next to them. He said considerately, Miss is injured. You should get it treated quickly. I will take my leave. Qi Yanran waited for Granny Yang to finish treating her wounds and leave, then began to figure out how to get revenge. She would absolutely not let Zhaoyan get away with this. But how should she get revenge? Right! She likes the crown prince, doesn't she? Then I must take the crown prince for myself. With this thought, Qi Yanran put on her tattered, bloody clothes and took some pastries to the Xin Hall. Outside the hall, King Jing Rongcheng was about to push the door open when the attendant beside him, Xiaoling, reminded him. Your Highness? It's that girl. He looked back and saw a palace maid walking slowly toward them. Although she wore tattered, blood-stained palace clothes, it did not diminish her beauty. On the contrary, it added a pathetic charm. Miss, you're all bruised. Why aren't you resting? Xiaoling was a young and passionate man. He was captivated by Qi Yanran's beauty and felt a pang of heartache when he saw her bringing food with her injuries. Qi Yanran didn't know what he was thinking. She bowed gracefully and said in a soft voice, I heard that the crown prince hasn't eaten much, so I'm afraid he might be hungry. I've come to bring him some pastries. Oh, I see. Xiaoling didn't want to say too much in front of King Jing, so he introduced her. This is His Highness King Jing, your savior. Qi Yanran had seen the man as she walked over. He had an elegant and handsome face, and a pair of upturned, romantic-looking eyes that seemed especially gentle and affectionate, making it easy for a person to fall for him. Wait a minute, this man looks just like my senior, Rong Rizhen, from my past life in the entertainment industry. Qi Yanran would never forget Rong Rizhen. When she first entered the industry, she was beautiful, but had no family background. She was quickly targeted by a powerful man who had a penchant for unconventional tastes. If it weren't for Rong Rizhen, she would have not only lost her purity, but also her life. Rong Rizhen protected her and helped her succeed. He kept her in his studio, and many people said he liked her and was pursuing her. But until she traveled to this world, he had never said he loved her. Qi Yanran looked at his face, thinking of Rong Rizhen, and her eyes slowly turned red. Right! If I could travel through time, is it possible that Rong Rizhen also did? With this thought, she became excited. Your Highness King Jing, the heavens do not change. May I ask what the next line is? The scene was very quiet, with an awkwardness that was a little strange. Qi Yanran could already tell from King Jing's calm expression that he was not Rong Rizhen. Her eyes grew sore, and tears fell. A beautiful woman's tears always drew pity. Rong Cheng smiled gently. Are your wounds hurting? Give me the food. I'll take it for you. You should go back and rest. He reached out to take the food box. She looked at his affectionate eyes and handed it to him. At the same time, she remembered to offer her thanks. This maid, Qi Yanran, thanks your Highness King Jing for saving my life. It's nothing. It was no trouble at all, Rong Cheng said. He took the food box with a gentle smile, then pushed the door open and entered the Zine Hall. Qi Yanran was still immersed in the fantasy that Rong Cheng was Rong Rizhen in every way. She couldn't bear to leave, so she crouched by the window, wanting to get one more look at him. Inside the Zine Hall, Rong Cheng walked in and immediately saw the Crown Prince sitting cross-legged on a futon. Wuji! Rong Cheng knelt opposite him and gently called out. Rong Fu opened his eyes when he heard the voice. Seeing King Jing, he lowered his head and respectfully said, Uncle Wang. Rong Cheng nodded. He opened the food box, brought out a plate of exquisite pastries, and gestured for him to eat. Rong Fu looked at the pastries and shook his head. Thank you, Uncle Wang. I'm not hungry. Rong Cheng smiled as he tried to persuade him. You can still taste them, even if you're not hungry. These were sent by that new palace maid of yours. She was punished in the Empress's palace and is covered in injuries, but she still didn't forget to send you pastries. It seems her feelings for you are very deep. Rong Fu frowned at this. Uncle Wang, please be careful with your words. She is just a palace maid. Rong Cheng smiled back. What's wrong with a palace maid? Can't a palace maid have feelings for you? Rong Cheng tried to trick him. I heard you started eating as soon as she arrived. It seems she's to your liking. Rong Fu nodded and admitted it. She is indeed beautiful and clever. But my heart. Rong Cheng was stunned. He never expected Rong Fu to say such a thing. Qi Yanran, who was eavesdropping, was also stunned. Did he actually fall for me? While both of them were in shock, Rong Fu took a sudden turn. It's a pity. I can't accept her. If Uncle Wang likes her, you can take her away. It would also save me a lot of trouble. The eavesdropping Qi Yanran felt that he was so void of emotion from his Buddhist practice. Am I a commodity that can just be given away? After his brief shock, Rong Cheng regained his calm and composed demeanor. Such a beautiful woman, and the Crown Prince says he doesn't want her. You are truly generous. Quote, Amitabha, Rong Fu said, putting his palms together with a look of compassion. My body is in the mortal world, but my heart is in the Buddhist faith. A woman's beauty is like a withered bone to me. It would be a waste for her to stay by my side. Rong Cheng looked at him with a deep, half-believing gaze. The Emperor would be saddened to hear you say that. I just came from him. His health is not good, and he has no other male heirs. He urgently needs you to take control of the Rong family's empire. Rong Fu looked at him and said with a look of course, Isn't Uncle Wang here? Crown Prince, you are wrong. Rong Cheng smiled dotingly. I am only your uncle. Don't say such things. The walls have ears. Qi Yanran, who was peeking through the window, heard this and thought he was talking about her. She quickly shrank back but accidentally pulled her wound, causing her to hiss in pain. The sound was very faint, but it still reached Rong Cheng's ears. Rong Cheng had keen hearing and sight, and already knew she was eavesdropping. He thought she was very bold. Rong Fu also thought Qi Yanran was bold, but to avoid revealing his martial arts, He could only pretend not to know. That's enough. You should think about it again, Rong Cheng said, then said his goodbyes to Rongfu and walked out. He never expected to see Qi Yanran still there after coming out. This little palace maid was truly bold. If she saw me, wouldn't she run away? She's courting death. He saw her walking toward him with a blush on her face and a shy manner. Quote, what's going on? Did she actually hear the Crown Prince's words and is now thinking of following me? Should I accept her or not? The reason Ji Yanran hadn't left was that she wanted to confirm again whether he was Rong Rijin. Maybe there were outsiders just now, and he was being cautious and didn't dare to reveal his identity. Your Highness King Jing, she said, her eyes shining. Her voice was very soft, as if she was afraid of startling him. Rong Cheng felt as if her gaze was on fire and could burn a person. He had always been cold and detached, but he felt as if his heart had been scalded by something. Yes, then, he heard her say. Your Highness King Jing, do you really not know what the next line is for? The heavens do not change? Rongfu almost couldn't keep a straight face. Is the next line really that important? Qi Yanran nodded emphatically. It's very important to me. Rong Cheng shook his head and sighed. Unfortunately, I don't know. Qi Yanran couldn't help but look disappointed. Seeing her disappointment, Rong Cheng felt a little sorry for her. He unhooked the jade pishu pendant from his waist and handed it to her. Take this. If you have any difficulties in the future, you can use this pendant to find me at the Eastern Gate. This had the intention of providing protection. Qi Yanran was reminded of Rong Rijin again. She felt that he was just like Rong Rijin, a warm, kind, upright, and strong man. Thank you, Your Highness King Jing. She watched him leave and returned to her room with a feeling of regret. The night passed quickly. When Qi Yanran woke up, she found that it was drizzling outside. At noon, Shang Yu brought her lunch. While eating, Qi Yanran asked, how is the Crown Prince? Did he eat? Qiang Yu said he did. The Crown Prince's meals are regular now. He probably won't go on a hunger strike again. Qi Yanran felt that this was not good news. The Crown Prince is behaving. He's not causing trouble anymore. Is there still a place for me to use my skills? Not to mention whether the Empress would spare her life. He Zhaoyan alone was enough to make her life miserable. Thinking of He Zhaoyan, her desire for revenge returned. She had to hold on to the Crown Prince, that big tree. With this thought, she ate her meal, took some pastries, and went to the Zine Hall. But when she arrived at the entrance, she heard the guard say that the Crown Prince had given an order. The palace maid, Qi Yanran, was no longer allowed to approach the Zine Hall. Qi Yanran was furious when she heard this, but on her face, she was pitiful and asked softly, why? Did I do something wrong? Please, guard brothers, give me a hint. The guards were a little moved by Qi Yanran's charm, but their faces remained neutral. We are only relaying the Crown Prince's order. Miss, you should go back. Don't make things difficult for us. Why would he make things difficult for me, she wondered. Was it because I was too forward yesterday morning? She thought about how the man had been consumed by desire yesterday, so now he was making things difficult for her because he didn't want to see her. He's scared. He's afraid of breaking his vows for me. If that's the case, I must strike while the iron is hot. Your Highness, this maid has something to say to you. She stood outside the door and pitifully called out, Your Highness, please let me in. My legs hurt so much. The man's voice came from inside the hall, telling her to get lost. The guards heard the prince's order and, with a cold face, tried to persuade her again. Miss, you should go back. Qi Yanran didn't want to get beaten, so she went back. But giving up was not an option. She went to find Granny Yang, thinking of having her open a green channel for her. But Granny Yang didn't want to displease the Crown Prince either. Little Qi, it's not that I don't want to help you. The Crown Prince has forbidden you from getting close to him. Publicly disobeying that will get you punished. Qi Yanran's black foxy eyes rolled. Granny, the Empress is still waiting for me to persuade the Crown Prince to go to the Imperial Academy. Tomorrow is the last day. If I don't complete the task, you'll also be punished. Granny Yang didn't want to be punished, so she thought about it and still took her to the Zine Hall and had the guards let her in. Inside the Zine Hall, Rongfu was not meditating or chanting scriptures this time. Instead, he was kneeling by the window and copying Buddhist scriptures. Your Highness, this handwriting is so beautiful. Qi Yanran picked up a piece of paper and admired the strong yet gentle brush strokes. She praised him. The strokes are powerful yet elegant. like iron paintings and graceful hooks. Rongfu was stunned. He never expected such an aesthetic sensibility from a mere palace maid. After a moment, he put on a stern face and said coldly, "I remember strictly forbidding you from approaching the Zine Hall. Get out!" Qi Yanran knew he wouldn't be polite, so she took the initiative. "Why won't your highness let this maid approach the Zine Hall? You seem so nervous. Could it be that you have a guilty conscience?" Rongfu's one and only guilty conscience was her. He immediately shouted in anger, "How dare you!" Compared to his anger, Qi Yanran smiled leisurely. "Your highness is simply embarrassed and angry." Rongfu glared at her, his voice heavy. "No, I just hate you." Qi Yanran's smile remained. Hatred is a very peculiar emotion. Has your highness ever heard the term, a pair of happy enemies? It's used to describe this kind of emotion. When two people go from hating to liking each other, getting to know one another little by little, this process is like exploring a treasure. It brings many surprises. Rongfu was speechless for a moment. He was truly embarrassed and angry. What a sharp tongue. Then he smiled malevolently. "You are very good at talking, so tell me about King Jing." Qi Yanran was startled to hear him mention King Jing. She thought of his intention to send her to King Jing. Was he still planning to get rid of her? "This maid just entered the palace and doesn't know much about King Jing." Rongfu smiled. "Since you don't know much, how about I send you to his side to get to know him better?" Qi Yanran immediately went into full dramatic mode, sobbing. "Your highness is so heartless. This maid is already your highness's person." Rongfu looked at her, and she had instantly transformed into a delicate and pitiful lily. He was as a despicable and heartless villain. He said angrily, "I don't recall when you became my person." Qi Yanran immediately brought up the evidence. "It was just yesterday morning. Is your highness's memory failing? We were entangled for a long time." Rongfu slapped the table in anger. "Shut up and get out. Shameless! You are truly shameless. How could a girl say such things?" Qi Yanran didn't leave. Instead, she put on a pathetic act. "I haven't seen your highness all day. Don't you miss me? I was punished yesterday and am covered in wounds. Your highness didn't even care. You've truly broken this maid's heart." Rongfu could make her even more heartbroken. He angrily shouted, "Guards!" The door to the hall was opened wide, and 2 guards quickly came in. They bowed deeply. "What are your orders, your highness?" Rongfu waved his hand. "Throw her out!" Qi Yanran had no choice but to leave. But after walking 2 steps, she suddenly turned back and, catching Rongfu by surprise, she kissed him on the cheek right in front of the guards. Rongfu never expected her to do such a thing. He was stunned by the kiss. By the time he reacted, Qi Yanran had already run away. As she ran, she looked back and said, "It's all because your highness is so good-looking that this maid couldn't control herself." Qi Yanran ran out of the Zine Hall and returned to her residence, anxiously awaiting the damned prince's punishment. "She kissed him, and in front of the guards!" "He's so petty, he'll definitely not let her off the hook. Or he'll get so angry that he'll send her directly to King Jing." Qi Yanran thought about it all afternoon and waited all afternoon. But she didn't get a punishment from the damn prince. Instead, Xiang Yu came. Xiang Yu was there to deliver dinner. While eating, Qi Yanran habitually asked what the damned prince was doing. Xiang Yu said, "The crown prince often bathes in the Snow Spring Palace in the evening." Bathes? Qi Yanran immediately had an idea. She hastily finished her dinner, tidied up, and went to the Snow Spring Palace to stake out. When Qi Yanran entered the Snow Spring Palace, her first feeling was that it was cold, like she was in the middle of a snowy day. The coldness went straight to her bones. Bathing in this place is just suffering. That damned prince is truly a ruthless person. She rubbed her hands together, regretting coming here. If I try to seduce him here, I might catch a cold. In this era with low medical standards, getting sick is a big no-no. I'm literally risking my life to seduce him. Just as she was considering abandoning the plan, she heard the footsteps of a man outside. Qi Yanran suppressed her excitement and quickly hid. The door to the hall was pushed open and Rongfu walked in. He instinctively scanned the empty palace but felt a familiar fragrance in his nose, Qi Yanran's scent. With this thought, he became vigilant. "Get out." "Qi Yanran, I see you." He was testing her. Qi Yanran was hiding behind a large pillar farthest from the pool, her breath caught in her throat. "The damned prince saw me!" But she was the type who wouldn't give up unless she was forced to. Unless the damned prince grabbed her collar and threw her out, she wouldn't expose herself. Her stubbornness, ironically, helped her get away with it. Rongfu saw that his attempt to flush her out had failed and began to doubt himself. She's injured. Why would she come here? It must be my imagination. I can't think about her. He put down his clean clothes and began to take off his clothes. At the same time, Chi Yanran, who hadn't heard any movement from Rongfu for a long time, began to peek out to check the situation. She unexpectedly caught sight of the beautiful man taking off his clothes. He looked thin, but he was all muscle when he took off his clothes. He had a tight, muscular body, broad shoulders, a slender waist, and a prominent 8-pack. On top of that, he had a sexy V shape. How did that damned prince get a body like that? How can it be so perfect? As she marveled, she heard a splash, and the man, like a swimming fish, dived into the water. Qianran immediately understood. He came here to swim. Rongfu was indeed here to swim, but he wasn't doing it to get a good body. He was simply here to vent his excess energy. He was a grown man, and his energy was particularly abundant. Even though his practice had freed his mind from all distractions, his physical desires couldn't be ignored. Ever since he met Qianran, his desires had become rampant. The number of times he dreamt about her at night, in various positions and scenarios, had increased. In his dreams, he was a beast who didn't know how to stop. He swam back and forth in the cold pool, his movements swift and repetitive. He was so focused on his swimming that he didn't notice that Qi Yanran had stolen his clothes from the side of the pool, both his clean clothes and the ones he had just taken off. Then, she threw them out the window. Splash! When Rongfu finished swimming and stood up from the pool, he saw this scene. His cold eyes instantly narrowed dangerously. Qi Yanran, what are you doing? Caught in the act of doing something bad, Qi Yanran, despite being terrified, smiled charmingly. What do you think this maid is doing, Your Highness? Don't you know? She walked toward Rongfu in a thin dress, swaying her hips and smiling. Stop! Rongfu closed his eyes, forcing himself to stop. But he didn't know that water couldn't stop his other senses, which became instantly sharper. He once again smelled her scent, and he heard a splashing sound. It was her kicking her feet in the water. Qi Yanran sat at the edge of the pool, kicking her bare feet in the water. Gradually, her feet slid onto his chest. His upper body was bare and soaked in the cold water. It was icy cold, so when her soft, warm feet landed on his skin, the huge temperature difference almost burned him. He gasped for air and his breathing became erratic. Qi Yanran, are you tired of living? Qi Yanran knew he was aroused. After all, her wet clothes were clinging to his body, and nothing could be hidden. She was pleased with how Rongfu was reacting and continued to flirt with words. This maid is tired of living, but I only want to die under your highness. Rongfu was faced with the greatest sexual temptation he had ever experienced in his 18 years of life. He didn't know when he had opened his eyes. All he could see was the woman's fair, tender feet on his chest. Unable to control his desires, he reached out and grabbed her little feet. He lowered his head and gently kissed the top of her feet. She was proud and triumphant, like a seductive siren beckoning to him. Your Highness, come here. As if under a spell, he slowly walked toward her. She put her arms around his neck, and her rosy lips landed on the corner of his mouth, breathing in his orchid-like scent. So, Your Highness, please be compassionate and let this maid be your first woman. Looking at the girl's charming and beautiful face, he could no longer suppress the desire in his heart and kissed her lips wildly. His kisses were rough, aggressive, and crazy. Qi Yanran's eyes were filled with tears of pain. Your Highness, be gentle, she thought triumphantly. This damned man is nothing more than that. With one hand, she felt the abs she had been wanting to touch for a long time, and with the other, she slid downward. This was a great stimulus for Rongfu. His breathing became heavy and frightening. The next moment, he hit the back of his head, and his body went limp, falling into the water. Rongfu looked at the woman who was slowly sinking to the bottom of the pool. He thought coldly, as long as she dies, my temptation will be gone. But would it really be gone? A dead person couldn't be surpassed. She would become his nightmare every night, luring him into endless lust. No! Absolutely not! Splash! He held her and put her on the side of the pool. She was unconscious and knew nothing. He could do whatever he wanted. His lust surged again, but he did nothing. Rongfu turned around, pushed the door open, walked out, found the clothes Qi Yanran had thrown away, and put them on one by one. Qi Yanran was woken up by the heat. She opened her eyes and felt like she was in a fire. Her entire body was burning uncomfortably, and her throat was dry and sore. Water! Water! Xiang Yu immediately poured a glass of water and handed it to her. Qi Yanran almost snatched the water and drank it all without a single drop left. Only then did her throat feel better, and she felt alive again. "What happened to me?" "I'm not sure, miss. You just came back and fell to the ground." The memory slowly came back. Last night, she had flirted with the damned man until he was on the verge of breaking his vows. But at the critical moment, he knocked her out. Then, he left her alone in the Snow Spring Palace to freeze. Later, she woke up shivering, stumbled back to her residence, and fainted. That damned man who watches people die without helping them is not a true monk. Qi Yanran cursed him in her heart, but on her face, she politely asked, "Where is the crown prince? What is he doing?" Xiang Yu said, "His Highness is meditating and chanting scriptures in the Xian Hall." Qi Yanran thought, "That damned man almost killed me, and he can still meditate and chant scriptures as if nothing happened? No, I have to go see him. I must make him realize what he has done." She also remembered the Empress's task. Today was the last day of the 3-day deadline. In the Kunming Palace, the Empress also remembered that it was the last day of the 3-day deadline, so she summoned Granny Yang early in the morning. She sat on her beautiful stool and asked, "Is the Crown Prince interested in her?" Granny Yang then talked about what happened in the Snow Spring Palace last night. That young lady went to His Highness, and as soon as she went to him, His Highness ordered her to be beaten 50 times. Now Qi Yanran is lying naked in the Snow Spring Palace, and His Highness hasn't given any orders on what to do with her. It's clear that she is special to him. The Empress pondered and nodded. "All right, since that's the case, I'll give her 3 more days." "Yes," Granny Yang said. She composed herself, lowered her head, and left the Kunming Palace. She went straight to Qi Yanran's residence, only to see guards dragging Qi Yanran away. Qi Yanran's clothes were a mess, and she was hoarsely shouting, "I want to see the Crown Prince! I want to see the Crown Prince!" Granny Yang quickly went up to them. "Stop! What's going on? What's with all this pulling and tugging?" The guards saw her and immediately bowed. "Granny Yang, His Highness the Crown Prince has an order. We are to immediately send Miss Yanran to King Jing's residence." Granny Yang was stunned. The Crown Prince was sending a beautiful woman to another man? "Granny, I have a way to make the Crown Prince change his mind." "Granny, please trust me one more time." Qi Yanran was still trying to fight for her life. Granny Yang still had some confidence in Qi Yanran. She told the guards to let her go first. "The Empress has decreed that the palace maid Qi Yanran must persuade the Crown Prince to go to the Imperial Academy within 3 days. She presented the Empress's order and told Qi Yanran, "The Empress is merciful and has given you 3 more days. Qi Yanran, you must cherish this time." The guards had to obey the Empress's order and let Qi Yanran go. Qi Yanran, now free, immediately went to the Xian Hall. She was disheveled and looked haggard and sickly. All this misery was caused by Rongfu. She had to make him see it with his own eyes and realize how much he had wronged her. She pushed open the door with force. Inside the Xian Hall, Rongfu was startled by Qi Yanran's kick. He looked over and saw her standing sickly at the door, as if a gust of wind could blow her down. But she was so beautiful that even her illness looked good on her. He felt that her sickly, delicate appearance had a certain charm. "I must be going crazy." He didn't want to go crazy. He said in a low, cold voice, "How dare you? Qi Yanran, don't test my patience." Qi Yanran ignored his anger, lifted her skirt, stepped over the threshold, and went straight for him. "Stop!" he shouted again. He also looked at the guards outside, as if he was about to call them to drag her out. Qi Yanran refused to leave. She sat down on the ground opposite him and got straight to the point. "Why are you sending me away, Your Highness?" Rongfu put his palms together, looking righteous. "Amitabha, I am a man of the Buddhist faith. I have forsaken women in this life." Qi Yanran's eyes, filled with a triumphant smile, burned into his. "I don't need Your Highness to tell me the answer. You are sending me away because your Buddhist heart is wavering. He grabbed her chin and looked at her exquisite features. He smiled thinly. "You are very smart, Qi Yanran. If you show this cleverness to King Jing, you will definitely be favored." "Your Highness, you make a good point. But what should I do if I have fallen deeply in love with you?" Qi Yanran broke free from his hand, suddenly leaned toward him, startling him. He dodged backward until his lower back hit the desk. "What are you trying to do?" He was on guard, holding his breath as she leaned over. The sight of her filled him with a burning lust. Just one glance made his desires stir. Is he going to become a slave to lust again? "No!" He opened his eyes, grabbed her shoulders, and threw her to the ground. Qi Yanran, you don't love me at all. You just love my identity as the crown prince. Your Highness, are you not confident? Qi Yanran was pinned to the ground by him. After a soft laugh, she bent her leg and put her foot on his chest. Your Highness, this face, this body. As she said this, her toes rubbed against his chest again. Then she said meaningfully, and this vibrant power, I love all of it. King Jing is great, but he's not as young as your Highness. I just love a young man like you. Rongfu was stunned. This was the first time he had heard a woman talk about her desires. So she also has desires for me. This desire has nothing to do with power or status. It's just about me as a person. I heard you were a thin horse from Yangzhou. What else have you heard, Your Highness? She said with a charming smile. Her toes went for the jade belt at his waist. He grabbed her little foot. Her pink embroidered shoe was still small enough to fit in the palm of his hand. He looked at it, muttering, I heard the thin horses of Yangzhou are the best at pleasing men's hearts. Qi Yanran listened. She wrapped one arm around the back of his neck, leaned forward, and whispered in his ear, Then, Your Highness, have you heard what we, thin horses from Yangzhou, use to please men's hearts? He would know now, even if he didn't know before. And now he knew. This woman was born to tempt men. Qi Yanran bit his earlobe, giggling. Your Highness, we, thin horses from Yangzhou, all have a unique, soul-stirring mastery. Rongfu, just listening, felt a natural blush spread across his face. Qi Yanran continued to play the part of a deeply devoted lover. I truly like Your Highness. If you don't believe me, keep me by your side. I am willing to spend my entire life proving it. Rongfu immediately sobered up at these words. So that's your goal. You want to stay by my side and break my vows. Qi Yanran nodded honestly. I do have a mission to stay by Your Highness's side, but you know in your heart that if you send me away, a new woman will come soon. And a new woman won't be as nimble or to your liking as I am. You should keep me as your shield anyway. Rongfu looked at her in disgust. You are not a shield. You constantly provoke me and defy me. When Qi Yanran heard this, she knew he was softening. She immediately put on a fake, well-behaved smile. If Your Highness protects me, I will be a good shield. He had no way to deal with her. She was beautiful and clever, like a spring that nourished his dry and desolate heart. Get out, he said. Qi Yanran cooperated perfectly. Yes, it wasn't until she walked out of the zine hall that she finally relaxed. As soon as she got back to her room, she collapsed on the bed and slept until morning. She was woken up by the heat. Her fever hadn't gone down and seemed to be getting worse. She was afraid that this fever would claim her life, so she grabbed Xiang Yu's hand and said with a fake cough, I feel so unwell. I can't even get out of bed. Can you please ask His Highness to come see me? But her hope was met with a harsh reality. Xiang Yu returned quickly and said, His Highness refused to come. He also said that if you died, he would pray for you. Qi Yanran had anticipated this outcome. She got out of bed, grabbed some paper and a brush, and wrote a letter. The letter was very short, only 8 words. Those who love deeply do not live long. Xiang Yu couldn't read and asked what she had written. Qi Yanran explained the words. When you close your eyes, love is a short life. Xiang Yu secretly looked at her, then asked, will he really come just for these few words? Qi Yanran smiled confidently. He will. Xiang Yu, half believing, went to deliver the letter. Rongfu did, in fact, come to see her. Good. She's so skilled. She even wrote in the exact same style as me. He stood up, adjusted his robes, and waved to Xiang Yu. Lead the way. Xiang Yu was shocked. His Highness is really going to see her. The residence was shabby and dilapidated. The ground was paved with uneven blue stones. The busy maids stopped their work and bowed deeply. Greetings to His Highness the Crown Prince. Rongfu's face was cold, and he didn't even glance at them. Qi Yanran was half asleep in her blankets. Rongfu looked at the woman sleeping soundly on the bed. He felt that, compared to the always troublesome Qi Yanran, this image of a sleeping beauty was more pleasant to look at and more interesting. Unconsciously, he sat down by the bed and admired her beauty. No matter how many times he looked at her face, it still amazed him. His gaze fell on her full red lips. The rosy color was like a beautiful, enchanting spider lily. Suddenly, the corners of her lips curved upwards. He felt a jolt in his heart, angered that he was caught peeking. Stop pretending to be asleep, he said in a low voice. Qi Yanran opened her eyes and smiled at the man by her bed. Your Highness likes me, she said. stating a simple fact. The intensity and heat in his eyes didn't lie. He liked her. Rongfu didn't deny her words. Instead, he got straight to the point. How did you manage to copy my handwriting? Chi Yanran knew this was why he came and was well prepared with her answer. Your Highness, we thin horses from Yangzhou learn everything. The original owner of the body really hadn't learned such things. She had been trained to serve men. Being able to read was a big accomplishment. Her talent for imitating handwriting came from her past life as an actress. Do you think I'll believe you? Rongfu felt Chi Yanran was hiding a secret. Did the Empress really send you here to seduce me? You are very dangerous. His instincts warned him again and again. Chi Yanran, what exactly do you want to do by my side? His face became cold, and his aura became fierce, overbearing, and intimidating. Chi Yanran felt that he had suddenly become a different person, like a majestic emperor who ruled over all things. Women were naturally attracted to power, and Chi Yanran was no exception. She found this dangerous aura very captivating. She wanted to flirt with him again. She acted on impulse. She leaned close to him, gently put her hand on his chest, and said in a charming voice, "Don't you know what I want to do, Your Highness? Of course, it's to finish what we started at the Snow Spring Palace." Rongfu slapped her hand away and sneered. You're sick and still can't behave yourself. It seems this illness isn't severe enough. Chi Yanran feigned sadness, lowering her eyes and whispering, Your Highness is so heartless. Oh well, it's my own fault for being so deeply in love with you. Rongfu didn't want to hear it anymore, so he changed the subject. Chi Yanran, don't let anyone else know that you can imitate my handwriting. If you don't want to die, that is. Chi Yanran understood what he meant. This was the palace, and political intrigue was everywhere. If others knew she could imitate handwriting, she would be easily used. Is Your Highness worried about me? She always managed to twist his words in a clever way. Rongfu couldn't argue with her. He simply didn't say another word. He stood up with a cold face, looking down at her. If you have nothing else to say, I'm leaving. Wait! Chi Yanran grabbed his sleeve. Your Highness, I'm sick with a fever. You can feel it. She grabbed his hand and put it on her forehead. It was burning hot. She was indeed very sick. Her fair face was an unhealthy shade of red. This is my fault, he thought. Rongfu felt a moment of pity, but it was just a moment. He said expressionlessly, You brought this on yourself. He gave her a long, hard look and left. After walking out of the room, he saw Xiang Yu waiting outside. Go and make her some porridge with goat's milk, rice, jujubes, and nuts, he ordered. Xiang Yu nodded in agreement and ran off to the kitchen. When the porridge was ready, she immediately brought it to Chi Yanran, saying with excitement, Miss Yanran, eat this. His Highness the Crown Prince personally ordered me to make it for you. When Chi Yanran saw the grains in the porridge, she immediately understood the hidden meaning behind the damned man's actions. He had Xiang Yu make her Buddhist porridge. He wanted her to get Buddha's blessing. The news that the Crown Prince had someone make Buddhist porridge for Chi Yanran soon reached the Empress. The Empress thought it was a good sign that the Crown Prince was starting to show concern for someone. She also heard from Granny Yang that Chi Yanran still had a fever, so she sent many good medicinal herbs and some beautiful clothes and jewelry as gifts. Chi Yanran's mood immediately brightened when she received the gifts for the first time. When a person is in a good mood, their illness goes away. Her fever went down that afternoon. She immediately changed into the beautiful clothes, then lay down on the table to copy a few pages of Buddhist scriptures. She wanted to use them to get the prince's attention. But she was rejected again. His Highness has ordered everyone away for 3 days of isolated meditation. No one is allowed in. Chi Yanran was furious. To make her climb the bed plan go smoothly, she decided to wait until after midnight. But just as she was sneaking out of her room, she heard a commotion. She saw a young girl being held down on the ground by guards. The girl was dirty, and her small hands were clutching a white steamed bun. What should we do? The guards looked at each other in embarrassment. I think we should just send her to the imperial prison. Chi Yanran, who had been watching the drama, couldn't help but speak up. Wait! The guard captain was indifferent. Miss Yanran, this has nothing to do with you. This woman trespassed into the Eastern Palace. We would rather kill 1,000 people by mistake than let one person go. Chi Yanran knew her words were not enough. She quickly glanced around and saw Granny Yang. She immediately jumped up and waved her hands, calling out, Granny Yang, you're still awake. Come here and join us. Granny Yang walked over, but she didn't want to get involved, nor did she want Chi Yanran to get involved. She warned her, His Highness is in isolated meditation and won't see you. You can't even protect yourself. Why do you care about others? Qianran smiled. Granny, you misunderstood. It's like this. His Highness often tells me to do good deeds and accumulate virtue. A breeze blew by, and a piece of dark gold cloth fluttered from behind a nearby column. Rongfu was watching the scene. He thought, this woman has to use my name to save someone? She is truly cunning. He also wondered, is it worth sticking your neck out for a mute girl you don't even know? With Granny Yang's help, Qianran was able to save Ye Chan's life after all. On the way back to her room, Granny Yang looked at her with a strange expression. Qianran found it odd and asked, Granny, if you have something to say, just say it. Granny Yang said, she is the daughter of Ye Xiao, the great general from the previous dynasty. 18 years ago, Ye Xiao was unhappy with the new emperor and led his troops in a revolt against Rongdu. As a result, his whole family was executed. Qianran understood the unspoken meaning. Thank you for the heads up, Granny. I will stay away from her in the future. Qianran was exhausted from all the drama. She went back to her room and fell asleep. In her dream, the damned man was truly affectionate, kissing her again and again. He was as clingy as a teddy bear. She felt uncomfortable and woke up. There was no damned man in sight. She was agitated in the darkness, and her body felt hot and restless. What's going on? Did the original owner of this body want a man, or was she drugged? Qianran couldn't sleep at all. She got up, took out paper and a brush, and started drawing the scenes from her dream. That damned man has a great body. Qianran admired her masterpiece, muttering to herself, what will happen if I give this painting to the prince? Will he get so angry that he sends me away, or will he kill me? I'm so curious. The next day, in front of the Xian Hall, Qianran was stopped by the guards again. His Highness is in isolated meditation and won't see anyone. Please leave at once, the guard said, waving his hand as if shooing a chicken. Qianran was unhappy, but she held back for now. She said nicely, I'm here to deliver something to His Highness. It's just a painting. You can just throw it through the window for me. What kind of painting is it? Let me see, the captain said. Qianran didn't expect this. Her charming face slowly turned dark. This concerns His Highness's reputation. I advise you not to look. Her words were veiled. The captain, Shen Zhuo, gave her the painting back, but didn't let her in. Instead, he told her to throw it in through the window. Qianran did as she was told. As she threw it in, she shouted, His Highness, this painting concerns your reputation and image. You will regret it if you don't look. You will definitely regret it. Rongfu's cold voice came from inside. Shen Zhuo, dispose of it. The guard captain, Shen Zhuo, touched his sword and took a menacing step toward Qianran. The look in his dark eyes was fierce. I'm going! Qianran gave a weak smile, cowering. She quickly picked up her skirt and ran away. But as she ran, she shouted toward the window, I'll be back! Your Highness, you will invite me back! Rongfu heard her voice and, against his will, looked at the painting she had thrown in. He opened it and saw a scene full of eroticism. The protagonist was himself. Qianran! He gritted his teeth, his voice a low hiss. Qianran had another unspeakable dream. In her dream, she tied the damned man up. He struggled fiercely and cursed her. Qianran, you are shameless. If you dare touch me, you're dead. She smiled provocatively and continued to take off his clothes, teasing him. Your Highness, are you going to use this to kill me? Qianran! He roared, his face fierce. Suddenly, a tear rolled out of his bloodshot eyes. His face twisted with shame and indignation. But the dream came to an abrupt end. Qianran woke up to a familiar restlessness. She felt empty and uneasy. This is not normal at all. She thought about it until the sky turned pale. She suddenly had an idea. The original owner of the body was a thin horse from Yangzhou. Was she secretly given something from a young age? How else could her body be so sensitive? Qianran was so burdened by this thought that she couldn't sleep. When she finally got up, she looked in the mirror and saw her beautiful face, with even darker circles under her eyes. She had no time to catch up on sleep. Today was the last day of the 3-day deadline. She hadn't even seen the damned man, let alone persuaded him to go to the Imperial Academy. What should she do? Did the erotic drawing from yesterday not work? Why wasn't he summoning her? While she was lost in thought, eating her breakfast, Granny Yang arrived. She was holding pigments and a brush, and she asked Qianran to draw an erotic painting for her. Qianran, wanting to repay her favor, started to draw. But halfway through, Shenzhou and the guards arrived. Miss Qi Yanran, His Highness the Crown Prince wants to see you, Shenjuo said with a cold face, standing outside the room. Qi Yanran knew she had succeeded. She tried her best to suppress her joy and calmly replied, I know, I'm busy. Tell him to wait a moment. She dares to make His Highness the Crown Prince wait, Shenzuo thought. She has no respect for anyone. Qi Yanran made the damned man wait for a full hour before she leisurely finished her erotic drawing. Inside the zine hall, Rongfu was sitting by the window, flipping through a Buddhist scripture. He could usually read for a whole day, but today he couldn't calm down. Why isn't she here yet? Is she doing it on purpose? I should have Shenjuo drag her over. What is she doing? Is anything more important than me? Many questions swirled in his mind, tormenting him. He felt as if he were in purgatory. He sighed and began to recite scriptures again, hoping to calm his mind. But then the door to the hall was pushed open, and a woman's charming voice came in. Your Highness, you've been waiting for a long time. I'm here. This seductress actually came. He knew she was doing it on purpose, but he didn't want to argue with her. He turned and gestured for her to come closer. Come here. Qi Yanran was surprised. Has this damned man changed his ways? He's in such a good mood. He's even inviting me to come closer. She wondered if he was planning a trick. Your Highness, what do you want to see me for? Rongfu nodded and pointed to the empty seat opposite him, motioning for her to sit down. Qi Yanran carefully checked the cushion, making sure there were no hidden dangers like needles or knives before sitting down. Rongfu saw her wariness and sneered. You say you like me, but you're so wary of me. You clearly don't trust me at all. Qi Yanran, you don't really like me. Qi Yanran indeed lacked trust in him, but she refused to admit it. She argued, Your Highness, that's wrong. Liking has nothing to do with trust. I like a dog, but do I have to trust that it won't bite me? How dare you? Rongfu's face turned cold. Are you comparing me to a dog? Qi Yanran knew she had misspoken and quickly corrected herself. How could I dare? I'm just making an example. I was just explaining. No, Your Highness, you're so concerned about whether I really like you. Could it be that you like me? Don't be ridiculous, Rongfu scoffed proudly. He grabbed a Buddhist scripture and slammed it down in front of her. Stop talking nonsense. Just copy this. Qi Yanran didn't understand. Your Highness, what does this mean? Rongfu didn't answer directly. He asked with sarcasm, Do you think I called you here to have ill intentions toward you? Qi Yanran shook her head and smiled. How could I dare to think that? I thought Your Highness called me here to punish me. After all, I drew you in a compromising position. Rongfu was afraid of her chaotic words. He immediately stopped her and stated his purpose. You are full of lust. You need to be purified by the Buddhist law. He had thought about it all night. He figured that as long as Qi Yanran returned to normal and stopped bothering him, he would return to normal too. It must be this way. Qi Yanran was surprised that Rongfu would try to purify her with Buddhist law. She was stunned for a moment, but then cooperated. Thank you, Your Highness. She decided to play along and use the opportunity to flirt with his Buddhist heart. Your Highness, I don't understand this sentence. Can you teach me? She pointed at a sentence in the scripture. Bodhisattva, using the wisdom to reach the other shore, has a pure heart with no worries. And with no worries, there is no fear, and one is far from wild illusions and finally reaches nirvana. Rongfu explained very seriously. This sentence means that a bodhisattva, because he uses the wisdom to reach the other shore, has a pure heart with no worries. And because he has no worries, he is free from fear and is far from wild illusions, and finally reaches enlightenment. Qi Yanran saw his serious expression and wanted to tease him. Your Highness, I forgot to ask you, did you like the painting I drew? She spoke in a frivolous tone, like a bad student who likes to cause trouble and disrupt the class. Rongfu was very unhappy. He suppressed his anger and asked, Do you think I would like something like that? Qi Yanran asked innocently, Why not, Your Highness? I drew you so handsome, so powerful, like a gift from the gods to the world. A gift? When Rongfu heard this word, his expression softened for a moment. Someone else said that about me before. Qi Yanran noticed his low spirits and saw an opportunity to get into his soft spot. She lowered her voice and asked, Who was that? A relative, a friend, or a mentor, or a loved one? It was Master Yikong, Rongfu said, interrupting her guesses. Qi Yanran was secretly happy that Rongfu didn't have a loved one. So, it was your master. I thought it was your loved one. Rongfu frowned. He said in a low voice, Why is your mind full of love and affection? Continue copying the scriptures. Qi Yanran was very obedient. She obediently copied the scriptures. Because the scripture was short, it was very easy to copy once. "Your Highness, I'm done." She copied it very carefully, and her handwriting was neat and elegant. She wanted to show it to him and get a compliment, but he didn't even look at it. "Continue copying," he said. "Copy until your heart is calm." Chi Yanran had to persuade him to go to the Imperial Academy. Today was the last day, so she couldn't calm down at all. She immediately pouted and acted spoiled. "How can my heart be calm when I admire your Highness so much and I'm right here by your side?" She was a sweet talker, and even her whining was full of sweet words. Rangfu felt a slight ripple in his heart, but his face remained cold. "If that's the case, then go back to your room and copy." "No!" Chi Yanran threw a tantrum on the table. "I won't go! I want to stay by your Highness's side." She grabbed his sleeve and said with a pout, "Wouldn't it be nice for me to add some fragrance to your sleeves?" "No," Rangfu said. He found her obedient appearance very cute and wanted to pat her on the head, but he didn't. His hands were clenched into fists inside his sleeves. He maintained his stern composure and said, "Continue copying. If you talk anymore, get out." Chi Yanran didn't want to get out, so she could only grit her teeth and continue copying. She copied until sunset. She looked at the thick stack of scriptures she had copied and said pitifully, "Your Highness, I've copied so much. Can you grant me a small wish?" Rangfu suppressed his pity. "What made you think you have the right to bargain with me?" Chi Yanran's words were truly cruel, but he did have the right to be arrogant. She didn't. She could only act pitiful and wronged. "I'm not trying to bargain with your Highness. It's just that you have been teaching me, and I feel that you are a father figure to me. So, as a father, can you please grant your daughter a small wish?" She was getting more and more out of line. She felt that if Rangfu agreed to go to the Imperial Academy, she would even kneel down and call him Daddy. Rangfu was so angry at her words that he slapped the table. "Chi Yanran, can you have some dignity?" "No," Chi Yanran said righteously. "How can I have dignity and your Highness at the same time? You can't have both, your Highness." Rangfu was so angry, he didn't want to speak anymore. Chi Yanran continued, "Your Highness, my small wish is for you to go to the Imperial Academy tomorrow. As long as you go to the Imperial Academy tomorrow, I will be a dignified person from now on." But Rangfu flatly refused. "I won't go. You can go to the Empress and beg for forgiveness. Maybe you'll be spared." Chi Yanran rolled her eyes and said pointedly, "In the end, your Highness is just heartless." Rangfu was used to Chi Yanran saying nice things. This time, when he heard her say something bad, his face changed. "Since you know I am heartless, then stay away from me." Chi Yanran felt hurt. She didn't want to waste her breath, so she stood up and left. Rangfu never expected her to leave just like that. He felt inexplicably unhappy. "How dare she?" he said in a low voice. "Before you leave, you should say something to me." This was the first time he had referred to himself as I, taking on the posture of a crown prince. Chi Yanran was stunned. When she realized what he had said, she was both surprised and happy. "Is His Highness going to the Imperial Academy?" Rangfu was taken aback by her question. He was very angry, but he found that Chi Yanran always had a way of making him unable to get mad. Rangfu felt like he had punched a cotton ball. "Get out!" He felt that she would eventually anger him to death. If Chi Yanran knew what he was thinking, she would definitely say, "If I weren't so big-hearted, you would have angered me to death 800 times already." "Thank you for your concern, your Highness. I will take my leave." She bowed briefly and left. Rangfu was relieved to hear her say the words, "I will take my leave," but he wasn't happy when she actually left. The hall became quiet. He should have been used to the silence, but he felt a quiet, heavy feeling in one's chest, a stuffy, uncomfortable feeling in his chest. He lowered his eyes, put his palms together, and chanted the Heart Sutra. But he had too many distracting thoughts. He couldn't stop thinking about what would happen to Chi Yanran. How would the Empress punish her? Would she die? Chi Yanran was also thinking about these things. Tomorrow was the last day of the 3-day deadline. The damned man was going to watch her die and do nothing about it. After thinking about it, she decided to go and beg for forgiveness first. Of course, before that, she found a brush and painted a portrait of the Empress. The portrait showed the Empress's beautiful and dignified demeanor. She hoped the Empress would spare her life for the sake of the painting. In the Kunming Palace, the Empress was eating her dinner when a servant announced that Chi Yanran was asking to see her. When she heard this, she remembered the 3-day deadline. She asked her attendant, LVZ, "What's the situation with the Crown Prince? Did he agree to go to the Imperial Academy?" LVZ had been keeping a close eye on the Eastern Palace. She replied, "It seems he didn't. but I've heard that the Crown Prince summoned her early this morning. She made the Crown Prince wait for 2 hours, and she wasn't punished. She even spent the whole afternoon with the Crown Prince in the Zine Hall. The Empress was surprised. She spent the whole afternoon there? What did they do? LVG said, it seems she was punished to copy Buddhist scriptures. What kind of punishment is that? The Empress saw through the situation. She laughed. The Crown Prince is young and impulsive. He simply doesn't have enough self-control. She ordered, let her in. When Qi Yanran entered, she bowed respectfully and was about to offer the painting. But before she could speak, the Empress said, you've come to see me. Have you brought good news? Qi Yanran didn't dare to answer. She lowered her head and held up the painting. Your Majesty, this maid is here to present a painting. I hope you will enjoy it. The Empress had already seen the object in her hand. When she heard it was a painting, she became a little interested. She nodded and had a servant take it. LVZ took the painting and slowly unrolled it. She saw a beautiful and dignified woman walking through a vibrant field of peonies. She was looking back over her shoulder, as if she were looking down on everything. It was the Empress herself, Tao Lichun. This is not bad. It has some charm. The Empress admired and commented, looking very pleased, but a cunning look appeared in her eyes. There's no good deed that isn't motivated by a selfish desire. Qi Yanran, what do you want in exchange for this painting? Qi Yanran didn't waste any time. She immediately knelt down. Your Majesty, this maid is not capable enough to persuade the Crown Prince to go to the Imperial Academy, but I am confident that as long as you give me half a month, I will definitely be able to persuade him. The Empress could see through Qi Yanran's little scheme, but she had to tolerate it for now. The Crown Prince was already showing a tendency to fall for her, so she couldn't replace her yet. If in half a month, you still haven't persuaded the Crown Prince to go to the Imperial Academy, what will you do? I don't need your Majesty to give the order. This maid will commit suicide as an apology. Very good. The Empress was satisfied with her blood oath, but she wasn't soft-hearted. But you will be spared death. The punishment will be to kneel outside. She didn't say for how long, which meant it was a continuous punishment. Poor Qi Yanran hadn't had dinner yet. After just 15 minutes of kneeling, her stomach began to rumble. She immediately regretted it and wanted to cry. She should have eaten a full meal before coming. That way, even if she were killed, she would be a well-fed ghost. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Her stomach was singing an empty song. LVG heard it and went back to tell the Empress. She asked, puzzled. Your Majesty, since you've given her one chance after another, you've decided to use her, right? Why didn't you spare her punishment so that she would be grateful and serve you more loyally? The Empress took a sip of tea and smiled. Do you think I'm punishing her? I'm just waiting to see the Crown Prince's reaction. She had given Rongfu 3 hours. She wanted to see if Qi Yanran's flirting had made him have even a tiny bit of sympathy for her. At the same time, Rongfu was playing chess with the guard captain, Shen Zhuo. He was an expert, and he quickly defeated Shen Zhuo. After 2 losses, Shen Zhuo lost interest. Your Highness, please spare me. I don't know how to play chess at all. But Miss Qi might. When he mentioned Qi Yanran, Rongfu suddenly understood something. He looked at the expressionless man and asked in a low voice, Your Highness, I heard she went to the Empress to beg for forgiveness. It seems she's being punished. Should I go and say a few words for her? Before his voice had even faded, the expressionless man looked up. Do you have feelings for her? No, Shen Zhuo said with a weak smile, waving his hands to show his innocence. I've only spoken a few words with Miss Qi. How could I have feelings for her? He felt that Rongfu was jealous, so he tested him again. I think Granny Yang likes to protect her. Why don't you have her go and say something? Rongfu lowered his eyes and returned to his expressionless state. But he said, You can have her come over. I have something to tell her. Yes, Shen Zhuo replied, and stood up to leave. He ran out of the room. In the Kunming Palace, Qi Yanran had been kneeling for an hour. She was starving, her knees were aching, and her legs were numb. She felt like her body was about to break. She wanted to pretend to faint, but LVZ's eyes were fixed on her, as if she could see through her little tricks. Oh, Miss LVG, are you still busy so late? A familiar female voice came from behind her. Qi Yanran recognized it as Granny Yang's voice. She quickly turned her head and looked at her with tearful eyes, acting pitiful. Granny, Granny. Granny Yang didn't say anything, but gave her a reassuring look. Then she said to LVZ, I have something to see Her Majesty the Empress about. I hope you can announce me, Miss LVZ. LVZ had been waiting for someone from the Eastern Palace to come. She immediately nodded. All right, Granny. Wait a moment. Then she quickly went inside. Your Majesty, your predictions were so accurate. Granny Yang from the Eastern Palace is here. The Empress nodded. It must be him. Let her in. Soon after, she saw Granny Yang. She didn't waste any time and immediately asked, It's so late. Why have you come? Granny Yang bowed deeply and said with a smile, Your Majesty, it's like this. This afternoon, the palace maid Qi Yanran was punished by His Highness to copy scriptures, but she lost His Highness's green dragon inkstone. His Highness is so anxious that he ordered me to ask her about it. It was a clumsy excuse. The Empress knew this, but she played along. All right, take her back. Granny Yang left the Kunming Palace and took Qi Yanran back to the Eastern Palace. On the way back, Qi Yanran kept thanking Granny Yang. Thank you for saving me, Granny. Granny Yang felt a mix of anger and disappointment. She couldn't help but point at Qi Yanran's forehead. Qi Yanran, are you really stupid, or are you just pretending? Do you think I came here on my own will? Qi Yanran was confused. If it wasn't Granny's will, whose will was it? She didn't dare to think that the damned man had saved her. As she was thinking, a shadowy figure suddenly rushed over. She didn't have time to dodge, and the figure brushed past her. A warm bun was left in her hand. It was the mute girl, Ye Chan. Although the girl had a good heart, she still needed to be wary. Granny Yang was also on guard. She immediately grabbed the bun and threw it far away. She reminded her, You said you would stay away from her. Qi Yanran had said that, but she felt a pang of guilt when she saw the discarded bun. Granny Yang pulled her and urged, Let's go. I know you haven't had dinner. The kitchen has prepared something for you. And your favorite pork dumplings. When Qi Yanran heard pork dumplings, she no longer cared about the mute girl's kindness. Her face lit up with joy, and she ran toward the food. They didn't know that Yi Chan hadn't run far. She was hiding under a big tree, watching them. When she saw her bun being thrown away, her eyes suddenly turned red. She walked over, dejected, and was about to pick it up when a hand stepped on hers. Two palace maids who were returning after delivering clothes, one stepping on her hand and the other on her foot, laughed maliciously. Look at this. You really came to repay your kindness. Ha ha ha, I'm dying of laughter. You're going to repay your kindness with a steamed bun. The next day, Qi Yanran went to the zine hall but didn't go in. Instead, she went around it and headed toward the clothes bureau. Shen Zhuo was surprised to see this. He thought that the crown prince had been waiting for her to come and thank him all morning. He thought for a moment and went inside to report. She went to the clothes bureau. Rongfu was flipping through his Buddhist scripture. He immediately thought of the mute girl Qi Yanran had saved. Is a small mute girl more important than me, the crown prince? It seems her wounds have healed, and she has forgotten the pain. It looks like she hasn't knelt enough to clear her mind. Rongfu continued to flip through his scripture with a cold face, but his heart felt like it was being scratched by a cat. Why didn't she come to thank me? Is she angry with me? I'll take my leave, Shen Zhuo said, seeing that he had no orders and was about to leave. Rongfu didn't want to stop him, but as Shen Zhuo walked out, he couldn't help but say, Fine, send someone to keep an eye on her, so she doesn't get into trouble again. Qi Yanran went to the clothes bureau, but she wasn't planning on seeing the mute girl. She just wanted to walk around. A palace maid came up to her and greeted her. Are you from the Eastern Palace? Did you come to the clothes bureau for something? My name is Danju. You can tell me if you need anything. Qi Yanran waved her hand and smiled. It's nothing. You can go back to your work. I'm just taking a walk. She waved to Danju and prepared to leave. She didn't see the mute girl, so it was not meant to be. She had promised Granny Yang not to get involved with the mute girl. Wait, miss, Danju called out suddenly with a bolder tone. Miss, can you please go and see Xiao Chan? She was punished last night and can't get out of bed. She doesn't have any medicine and might die. When Qi Yanran heard this, her face changed and her expression became very serious. She immediately asked Danju to lead her to Ye Chan. On the way, she asked, why was she punished? Was it because of that bun? Danju said, it seems she was punished for stealing a bun from the imperial kitchen. Qi Yanran's heart sank. She felt she had caused her a great deal of harm. Soon, they arrived at Ye Chan's residence. The place was even dirtier and more chaotic than Xiang Yu's common room. She even saw a puddle of vomit on the doorstep. Yi-chan was in the corner, a small bundle huddled in a dirty blanket. Her breathing was so faint that it was as if she were dead. Chi Yanran told Danju to take care of her while she went to the Imperial Hospital to find the Imperial doctor who had treated her before. In the Imperial Hospital, Duan Yuqing was in his private pharmacy, sitting by the window and playing with a small white jade stick and a bug. Imperial Dr. Duan, Chi Yanran said, led by another doctor to Duan Yuqing's location. Duan Yuqing heard her voice and frowned slightly. "Miss Chi, why have you come?" Chi Yanran immediately explained her purpose. "A friend of mine is injured. Please go and see her quickly." Duan Yuqing's face was cold. "Miss Chi, I don't see ordinary friends." "You are a doctor," she said. "Don't you have a good heart?" She was skilled at using moral blackmail. Duan Yuqing didn't know what to say. Chi Yanran suddenly moved closer. She blinked her beautiful and enchanting eyes, and her gaze was both charming and seductive. Quote, "Go, go, go!" Duan Yuqing suppressed his pounding heart. He felt that he was being threatened by her beauty. Little did he know that this scene was witnessed by Shen Zhuo. Inside the zine hall, Rongfu held his prayer beads tightly. He was in a very bad mood. The overall problem is not big. They are all external injuries. You just need to apply this medicine once in the morning and once in the evening. As for the high fever, I will write a prescription for a fever-reducing medicine later. Duan Yuqing took out a small turquoise jar and explained Ye Chan's injuries. Danju took the prescription and went to get the medicine. Chi Yanran returned to see Ye Chan. She took off the jewelry she was wearing, hoping to exchange it for some money so Ye Chan could live a better life in the future. Tears suddenly rolled down Ye Chan's face as she watched Chi Yanran leave. Chi Yanran returned to the Eastern Palace, feeling burdened. On the way, she ran into the guard captain of the Eastern Palace, Shen Zhuo. Shen Zhuo was patrolling the Eastern Palace with his men. He saw her return and frowned slightly. The Crown Prince is in a bad mood today. He thought that when Chi Yanran heard this, she would go and comfort him, but Chi Yanran said, "Then I won't bother him today." Shen Zhuo thought, if the Crown Prince knew that Chi Yanran didn't go to see him because of his words, would she fall out of favor? Chi Yanran didn't hesitate and went straight to her residence. Lunchtime was long over, but the kitchen had saved some food for her. She had to eat first. After eating, she thought for a moment and then took a box of pastries to the Zine Hall. Outside the Zine Hall, the guard captain Shen Zhuo saw Chi Yanran and said with a cold face, "His Highness is not seeing any guests today. Please go back, Miss Chi." Chi Yanran could tell from his tone that the damned man was angry with her for coming so late. She thought for a moment and then barged in without hesitation. Shen Zhuo wanted to stop her, but as soon as he reached out, he saw her charge toward him with her chest out. He was startled and quickly moved to the side to let her pass. "Sorry for the intrusion, Captain Shen." Chi Yanran smiled at him, then walked up the steps and pushed open the door. Inside the Zine Hall, Rongfu didn't want to see Chi Yanran. He was very cold toward her arrival. "Put the things down and get out." Chi Yanran took the pastries and walked over. "Your Highness, are you unhappy?" she asked softly. Rongfu fiddled with his prayer beads and said coldly, "It has nothing to do with you." Chi Yanran's sweet words came without thinking. "How does it have nothing to do with me? Your Highness is my beloved. I am worried sick about your every frown and smile." Rongfu didn't believe her, but he didn't want to waste his breath on her. He couldn't win an argument with her, and he couldn't bring himself to kill her. He simply closed his eyes and ignored her. Chi Yanran knelt opposite him and brazenly looked at him. He had a truly handsome face. His skin was fair, like snow on a mountain. Beneath his high nose, his lips were rosy and seductive. Chi Yanran was a grown woman. At night, her restless body tormented her and kept her from sleeping. Now, seeing him like this, she felt a powerful urge. Your Highness, she said. "If you don't open your eyes, I will be reckless." Rongfu felt her hot gaze and his heart tingled. He couldn't help but wonder, how will she be reckless? Will she be as reckless as she was in the Snow Spring Palace? Thinking of their intimacy in the Snow Spring Palace, his body became hot. He should have opened his eyes to stop her, but his body wouldn't listen. His eyes were tightly shut, and he even looked forward to her recklessness. Chi Yanran was unaware of the internal struggle in Rongfu's heart. She reached out and touched his face, whispering, Your Highness, Your Highness." Her hand slid down to his neck. His breathing became noticeably heavier. His neck turned red, and his Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed.